The creature came from the darkness between stars. It had no true name, but those who survived its visits called it the Hollow. It was old, older than most civilizations, older than many suns. For 10,000 years, it had traveled from world to world, station to station, feeding on the living. The Hollow did not eat flesh. It ate something deeper. It fed on fear. It consumed the life force of creatures whose terror burned bright enough to taste. One victim could sustain it for months. A crowd of panicked prey could feed it for years. Today, it arrived at Nexus Station. Nexus was the largest trading hub in this sector of the galaxy. Hundreds of species came here to buy, sell, and trade. Millions of beings walked through its corridors every day. The station was a city floating in space, filled with markets, homes, and businesses. It was the perfect hunting ground. The Hollow moved through the crowds in a borrowed shape. It appeared as a tall figure wrapped in dark cloth. Its face was hidden. Its movements were slow and smooth. No one looked at it directly. Something in their minds told them to look away. The central market was busy today. Thousands of aliens filled the wide corridors. Small Vethri merchants sold glowing crystals from their homeworld. Tall Palori traders argued about prices in their clicking language. Dusklings moved in groups, their large eyes watching everything with constant worry. The Hollow walked among them, invisible to their attention. It was scanning. Every mind in the crowd gave off a signal. The Hollow could read these signals like a hunter reading tracks in snow. Fear had a color, a taste, a sound. The Vethri merchants were nervous about their sales. The Palori were anxious about a deal gone wrong. The Dusklings were afraid of everything, as their species always was. So many options. So many potential meals. The Hollow continued walking, savoring the fear around it like a fine perfume. It would choose carefully. The best prey were those whose fear burned hottest. Those whose terror would flood their bodies with life energy. Those who would die screaming in their own minds, while their hearts stopped from pure horror. Then its gaze landed on the human. She was standing near a food stall, talking to a companion. She was young by human standards, perhaps 28 years old. Her black hair was tied back. Her eyes were sharp and focused. She wore the uniform of a station scientist. The Hollow stopped. Something was wrong. Where every other mind in the crowd broadcast signals of fear and worry, this human was different. Her mind was quiet. Not empty, but controlled. Like a still lake on a windless day. The Hollow pushed its senses deeper, trying to read her. It found something unexpected. There was fear in her. Of course there was. All living things knew fear. But her fear was not like the others. It was not a wildfire burning out of control. It was a small flame, carefully contained, surrounded by walls of something else. Calm, focus, defiance. The Hollow had fed on thousands of species across hundreds of worlds. It knew the taste of every kind of fear in the galaxy. But this was new. This human mind did not react to danger the way prey should react. Her fear was present, but it was not in control. Something else was in control. The Hollow watched as the woman laughed at something her companion said. Her companion was another human, a man around the same age. He was taller, with a friendly face and easy smile. His mind was more open, more readable. Oh, he had normal fears, normal worries. But even he was different from the aliens around them. What were these creatures? The Hollow knew of humans, of course. They were a young species from a small planet called Earth. They had only been traveling among the stars for a few hundred years. They were not powerful. They were not advanced. They were soft and fragile compared to many species. And yet, the woman turned her head. For just a moment, Her eyes swept across the crowd and passed over the spot where the hollow stood. She did not see it. No one could see it when it did not wish to be seen. But in that brief moment when her gaze passed by, the hollow felt something it had not felt in centuries. Uncertainty. This prey was different. This prey might be dangerous. The hollow was not afraid. It could not be afraid. It was the thing that made others afraid. But it was curious now. Very curious. It followed the two humans as they left the market. The woman's name was Yuna. The hollow learned this by listening. Her companion was called Taiho. They worked together in the station's research department. Yuna studied alien biology. Taiho handled communications between species. They walked through the corridors talking about their work, their plans for dinner, a message Taiho had received from his family on Earth. Normal things. Boring things. But the hollow watched Yuna with growing fascination. Every few minutes, she would glance around. Not with fear, with awareness. She was watching for threats without even thinking about it. Her body was relaxed but ready. Her mind was calm but alert. This was not the behavior of prey. This was the behavior of something else. The hollow made a decision. It would not hunt this human tonight. Not yet. First, it would learn more about her. It would understand what made her different. Then, when it finally came for her, it would know exactly how to break her. It had all the time in the universe. The hunt had just begun. 3 days passed. The hollow watched and waited. It learned many things about the human called Yuna. She woke early every morning. She ate a simple breakfast alone in her small apartment. She walked to the research center and worked long hours studying alien creatures brought to the station from distant worlds. She was good at her job. Other scientists came to her with questions. She answered them with patience. In the evenings, she often met Taiho for meals. They would talk and laugh. Sometimes other humans joined them. There were not many humans on Nexus Station, perhaps 50 in total. They seemed to enjoy each other's company. The hollow also watched Yuna in quieter moments. When she was alone, when she thought no one was looking, she would sometimes stand by the windows and stare out at the stars. Her mind would grow still during these moments. Not peaceful, still, like a predator waiting in tall grass. The hollow could not understand it. On the fourth night, it decided to test her. Yuna was walking home late. The research center had kept her busy with a new specimen from a gas giant. She was tired. The corridors were nearly empty at this hour. Most beings on the station were sleeping. The hollow followed her through the dim passages. It began to project its aura. The aura was the hollow's greatest weapon. It was a wave of pure dread that flowed out from its mind like cold water. When this aura touched other beings, their deepest fears came alive. They saw shadows moving. They heard whispers in the dark. Their hearts beat faster. Their breath grew short. Their minds began to crack. The hollow had driven entire cities mad with this power. It had made warriors drop their weapons and weep. It had stopped the hearts of kings and queens who thought themselves brave. Now it pushed this aura toward Yuna. She felt it immediately. The hollow saw her shoulders tighten. Her walking slowed. Her hand moved slightly toward a small tool on her belt. She was alert now, awake, aware that something was wrong. But she did not run. Any other creature would have run. The Vethri would have screamed. The Palori would have frozen in terror. The Dusklings would have collapsed where they stood. But Yuna did none of these things. She stopped walking. She turned around. The corridor behind her was empty except for shadows. The lights were dim here, flickering slightly. The silence was heavy. Any normal being would see nothing. But Yuna stared directly at the spot where the hollow stood. "I know you're there," she said. Her voice was steady. Whatever you are. The hollow was surprised. It had made itself invisible. It had hidden its presence from creatures with far sharper senses than any human. How could she know? It stepped forward and allowed itself to be seen. Its borrowed form unfolded from the darkness. Tall, thin, raw. Its shape was almost human, but stretched and twisted. Where a face should be, there was only shadow. Where hands should be, there were long fingers like black knives. Yuna's heart beat faster. The hollow could feel it. Her fear was rising. Good. The hollow spoke into her mind. It did not use words. It used feelings, images, raw meaning pushed directly into her thoughts. You should be afraid, little creature. Yuna's eyes widened. The psychic contact must have been painful. Most beings screamed when the hollow touched their minds. But Yuna only took a slow breath. I've been afraid before, she said out loud. You're not special. The hollow felt something like anger. This small, soft, fragile human dared to speak to it this way? It had consumed civilizations. It had ended species. It was death itself, given form and hunger. It attacked. The hollow threw its full psychic power at Yuna's mind. It tried to grab hold of her consciousness and crush it. This attack had killed thousands. It would reach into her brain and find every fear she had ever known. It would make those fears real. It would drown her in terror until her mind shattered like glass. The attack hit her, and then something unexpected happened. The hollow found itself inside a human mind, but it was not like any mind it had ever touched. Where other species had thin walls around their thoughts, easy to break through, Yuna's mind was different. It was a fortress. Walls of iron, foundations of stone, built not over one lifetime, but over countless generations. The hollow could feel the weight of it. This was not just Yuna's strength. This was the strength of her entire species, passed down through blood and memory and time. The hollow saw flashes, images from the deep past of the human race. It saw ice covering the world, humans walking through frozen wastelands, starving, dying, and still moving forward. It saw great beasts with teeth like swords, humans hunting them with nothing but sharpened sticks and courage. It saw plagues that killed millions, humans burying their dead with tears in their eyes, then standing up and continuing to live. It saw wars, so many wars, humans killing each other in terrible numbers, and yet always someone surviving, someone rebuilding, someone refusing to give up. The hollow tried to pull back, but Yuna's mind had closed around it like a trap. She was not attacking. She was simply showing it the truth, showing it what she was, what all humans were, survivors. The hollow felt pain, real pain. For the first time in 10,000 years, something had hurt it. It ripped itself free from Yuna's mind and stumbled backward. Its form flickered and twisted. Dark blood that was not really blood dripped from where its face should be. Yuna stood exactly where she had been standing. She was breathing hard now. Sweat covered her face. The contact had cost her too, but she was still on her feet, still staring at the hollow with those sharp, steady eyes. "Leave this place," she said. Her voice was hoarse but strong. "Find somewhere else to hunt. We are not your prey." The hollow fled. It moved through walls and shadows, putting distance between itself and the human woman. Its mind was burning with pain and confusion and something else. Something it had almost forgotten how to feel. Doubt. 20 minutes later, Taiho found Yuna sitting on the floor of the corridor. He had tracked her location when she did not come home. When he saw her face pale and exhausted, he ran to her side. "What happened?" he asked. "Are you okay?" Yuna looked up at her friend. She tried to smile, but it did not quite work. Something is hunting on this station, she said. Something old and hungry. And I think I just made it very angry. Taiho helped her stand. What do we do? Yuna's eyes grew hard. We hunted back. The bodies started appearing 3 days after Yuna's encounter. The first was a Vethri merchant. Station security found him in his shop, sitting in his chair, eyes wide open and staring at nothing. His skin was pale gray. His body was cold. The doctors could not explain what killed him. His heart had simply stopped. There were no wounds, no poison, no disease. He had died of pure fear. The second victim was a Pelori trader. The third was a young duskling who had wandered too far from its group. The fourth, fifth, and sixth were found together in a storage area, huddled in a corner as if trying to hide from something terrible. All of them had the same expression, terror frozen on their faces forever. Panic began to spread through Nexus Station. The alien populations whispered about a curse, a demon, a ghost from the void. Some packed their belongings and fled. Others locked themselves in their homes and refused to come out. Station security was overwhelmed. They had weapons and training, but what good were those against something that killed with fear? Their leader, a woman named Jizu, worked day and night trying to find answers. But she found nothing. Yuna found her. I know what's hunting us, Yuna said. They sat in Jisu's small office. Jisu was a few years older than Yuna, with short hair and tired eyes. She had been a soldier before joining station security. She had seen death before, but nothing like this. Tell me, Jisu said. Yuna explained everything. The creature in the corridor, the psychic attack, the thing that called itself the Hollow. Jisu listened without interrupting. When Yuna finished, Jisu was quiet for a long moment. Why hasn't it killed you? Why hasn't it killed you? She finally asked. I don't know, Yuna admitted. I think I surprised it. I think it expected me to break like the others. When I didn't, it ran. But it's still here, still feeding. And it's getting stronger. Jisu leaned back in her chair. I've called for help from the central government, but they're weeks away. We're on our own. Then we need to fight it ourselves. Jisu laughed. It was not a happy sound. How? You said it yourself. This thing has been killing for 10,000 years. It feeds on fear. Every species on this station is terrified. We're surrounded by prey. Not every species, Yuna said quietly. Jisu looked at her. Understanding slowly filled her eyes. The humans. Yuna nodded. There are 52 of us on the station. I've been researching all day. Taiho helped me pull records from across the galaxy. This creature has attacked hundreds of worlds. It has hunted thousands of species, but I can't find a single record of it ever attacking humans. Maybe we're too new. We've only been in space for a few centuries. Or maybe there's another reason. Yuna pulled out a small device and placed it on the desk. A holographic display appeared, showing a blue and green planet, Earth. Our homeworld is what other species call a death world. Category 12 on the galactic scale. Jisu raised an eyebrow. Category 12? Out of 15. 15 is instant death for most life forms. 12 means extreme danger. High gravity, unpredictable weather, toxic atmosphere by some standards. And the wildlife. Yuna smiled grimly. Earth is covered in predators. Sharks, wolves, lions, bears, crocodiles. Venomous snakes and spiders. Diseases that kill millions. Natural disasters that flatten cities. I grew up on Earth. I know what it's like. Then you know what we are. Yuna leaned forward. We didn't evolve as prey, Jisu. We evolved surrounded by death. Fear isn't our weakness. It's our oldest friend. It kept us alive when everything else wanted to eat us. Jisoo was quiet again. Then she stood up and walked to her window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. My grandmother used to tell me stories, she said, about the old wars on Earth, about what people did to survive, the things they endured. She turned back to Yuna. She always said that humans don't break. We bend, we fall, we bleed, but we don't break. That's what I'm counting on. They began to make plans. Taiho joined them the next day. So did a few other humans from the station. Word spread quietly through their small community. Something was hunting the station. The aliens were dying. But the humans were going to fight back. An old man named Do-hwan came to their first meeting. He ran a small restaurant in the human district, serving food from Earth to homesick travelers. He was past 70, with gray hair and wrinkled hands. But his eyes were sharp, and he moved like someone who had not forgotten how to fight. I was a soldier once, he said when he sat down. Long time ago. Colony wars. Saw things I don't talk about anymore. He looked around at the group. I'm too old to be much use in a fight, but I know a thing or two about hunting things that hunt you. Any advice? Yuna asked. Do-hwan smiled. Don't be prey. That's the first rule. The second rule is make sure the predator becomes afraid of you. How do we make something like the Hollow afraid? By showing it that we're scarier than it is. That night, the Hollow killed again. 2 more Vethri. A Palori family of 4. The station was emptying as aliens fled for their lives. Soon, only the humans and a few brave others would remain. Jisoo called another meeting. Her face was hard. We can't wait anymore, she said. Every day, we delay. More people die. We need to act. Yuna looked at her small team. Taiho, Jisoo, Do-hwan, 8 other humans who had volunteered. 11 people against a 10,000-year-old monster. The Hollow is a predator, she said. It thinks like a predator. It chooses its prey based on fear. It attacks the weak and avoids the strong. So we need to seem strong, Taiho said. No, Yuna shook her head. We need to seem like predators ourselves. We need to stop running and start hunting. If we can track it, find it, corner it, maybe we can end this. And if we can't? Jisoo asked. Yuna met her eyes. Then we die fighting. But we don't die screaming. We don't die as prey. We die as humans. The room was silent. Then, one by one, the others nodded. All right, Do-hwan said, rising to his feet. Let's go hunting. The trap took 2 days to prepare. Yuna chose the location carefully. An old storage section in the lower levels of the station. The lights there had been broken for months. The corridors were narrow and twisting. It was the kind of place the Hollow liked. Dark, isolated, perfect for hunting. But tonight, the hunters would become the hunted. Taiho worked on the technology. He was good with machines and signals. He built a device using parts from the communication center. A psychic amplifier, he called it. It could take mental energy and boost it, send it back stronger than before. I don't know if it will work, he admitted. I've never built anything like this. I'm guessing half the time. Guessing is fine, Yuna said. We're all guessing. Jisoo gathered weapons. Not guns or blades. Those would be useless against the Hollow. Instead, she collected lights, bright and powerful, and sound generators that could create painful frequencies. Anything that might disrupt the creature's concentration. Do-hwan prepared the people. He talked to each human volunteer. He reminded them of who they were, where they came from, what their ancestors had survived. Fear is natural, he told them. Feel it, let it fill you, but don't let it control you. Use it, turn it into fuel. That's what humans do. That's what we've always done. On the third night, they were ready. Yuna walked into the dark storage section alone. She moved slowly through the twisting corridors. Her heart was beating fast. Her hands were sweating. She was afraid. Good, she thought. Let it feel my fear. Let it think I'm prey. The others were hidden in positions around the area. They watched through cameras and sensors. They waited. The hollow came. Yuna felt it before she saw it. The temperature dropped. The air grew thick and heavy. That terrible feeling of dread crept up her spine. It was stronger this time. The creature had been feeding well. It was powerful now. It appeared at the end of the corridor. That tall, wrong shape. Those knife-like fingers. That empty space where a face should be? You came back, it said into her mind. His voice was cold and amused. Foolish little human. I showed you mercy before. I will not show it again. I'm not asking for mercy, Yuna said. The hollow laughed. The sound existed only in her head, but it hurt like a physical blow. You brought friends. I can feel them hiding in the shadows. Do you think numbers will save you? I have killed armies. I have consumed civilizations. What are 11 humans to me? Find out. Yuna gave the signal. The lights came on, bright, blinding. The hollow screamed as the sudden light stabbed at its form. At the same time, the sound generators activated. High-pitched frequencies filled the air. The human team emerged from their hiding spots. They moved together, surrounding the creature. Jizu in front with a light weapon. Taiho beside Yuna with the amplifier. The others forming a circle. The hollow recovered quickly. Its form stabilized. Its anger filled the room like a physical weight. You dare? It roared into all their minds at once. You dare attack me? I will show you what fear truly means. It unleashed its full power. The wave of terror hit them all at the same time. Every fear they had ever known came alive. Childhood nightmares. Secret shamans. The faces of dead loved ones. The darkness that waited at the end of all things. 2 of the team members collapsed immediately. They were young, new to space. Their minds could not handle the assault. They fell to the ground, unconscious but alive. The others stumbled. Jizu dropped to one knee, her face twisted in pain. Some of the volunteers screamed. One started crying, but no one ran. Yuna stood at the center of the storm. The hollow's power crashed against her mind like waves against a cliff. She saw her father's funeral. She saw the day she almost died in a lab accident. She saw every failure, every loss, every moment of doubt and despair. And she felt the fear. God, she felt it. It was horrible. It was overwhelming. It was everything the hollow promised. But it was not enough. Yuna looked at the monster through tear-filled eyes. Is that all you have? The hollow paused. Confusion rippled through its attack. We're humans, Yuna said. Her voice was shaking, but her words were clear. We survived ice ages. We survived plagues that killed half our species. We survived wars where we nearly destroyed ourselves. We buried our children. We watched our loved ones die. We faced the end of everything, again and again. She stepped forward. The hollow actually moved back. You feed on fear? We were raised on it. Every ancestor I have lived in fear and died anyway. Not broken. Not begging. They died fighting, working, loving, living. Taiho raised the amplifier. Yuna, now? Now. The device activated. It grabbed the hollow's psychic assault and did exactly what Taiho had designed it to do. It reversed the flow. It sent the fear back. But not just the fear in that moment. The amplifier had connected to all 11 human minds. It gathered their fear together. And more than that, it gathered the echoes of fear that lived in human memory, the genetic inheritance of a species forged in terror. The Hollow experienced human fear for the first time. It felt the fear of ancient humans facing tigers in the tall grass, the fear of plague victims watching their families die, the fear of soldiers charging into battle knowing they would not return, the fear of mothers protecting children against impossible odds, the fear of explorers stepping into unknown darkness. And underneath all that fear, it felt something else: defiance. Every human who had ever lived had felt fear, and every human who had ever lived had made a choice: to keep going anyway, to fight, to hope, to refuse to surrender, even when surrender was the only logical option. The Hollow screamed. This was not the sweet terror of prey animals. This was not sustenance. This was poison. This was a fire that burned from the inside out. This fear came attached to something the Hollow had never encountered: courage. The creature's form began to crack. Dark light poured from the breaks in its body. It tried to pull away, to escape, but the amplifier held it in place. "You are not predators," the Hollow whispered in their minds. Its voice was weak now, fading. "You are not prey. What are you?" Una stood before it, exhausted and bleeding from her nose where the psychic strain had burst small vessels. But she was standing. She was standing. "We're human," she said. "And you should have looked away." The Hollow shattered. Its form exploded into fragments of shadow that dissolved before they hit the ground. A wave of cold air rushed through the corridor. Then silence. It was over. The creature that had hunted the galaxy for 10,000 years was gone. Una fell to her knees. Around her, the other humans were doing the same. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Taiho sat down heavily and stared at the empty space where the monster had been. Jisoo walked over and put a hand on Una's shoulder. "We did it," she said. Her voice was wondering. "We actually did it." Una looked up at her friend. She wanted to say something profound, something memorable. Instead, she just smiled. "I need to sit down for about a week." Jisoo laughed. It was the best sound Una had ever heard. News traveled fast among the stars. Within days, every being on Nexus Station knew what had happened. A monster had come to hunt them. The aliens had fled or died, but the humans had stayed. The humans had fought, and the humans had won. At first, no one believed it. The Hollow was a legend, a nightmare that had existed since before most civilizations learned to build fires. It had destroyed empires. It had emptied worlds. How could a handful of soft, fragile humans defeat something like that? But the evidence was undeniable. The killings had stopped. The creature was gone. And the human team that had faced it was still alive, still walking the corridors of the station, still going about their daily lives as if they had not done something impossible. The story spread from Nexus Station to nearby systems. From there, it traveled along trade routes and communication networks. Within weeks, it had reached the far corners of the galaxy. The humans had killed the Hollow, not with advanced weapons, not with superior technology. They had killed it by being human. The galactic response was immediate and complicated. Some species were grateful. The Vethri sent formal messages of thanks to the human community on Nexus Station. The Dusklings, who had lost many of their kind to the Hollow, declared the humans friends of their entire species. Other species were afraid. If humans could defeat the Hollow, what else could they do? What other ancient terrors might fall before this strange race from a death world? The Pelori began quietly avoiding human ships and human stations. They were merchants. They knew when to stay away from dangerous goods. And some species were very, very interested. Deep in the unexplored regions of space, things older than the Hollow took notice. Predators that had never found worthy prey. Entities that had grown bored over millions of years. They heard the story of Nexus Station, and they felt something they had not felt in a long time. Curiosity, but that was a problem for another day. On Nexus Station, life slowly returned to normal. The aliens who had fled began coming back. The markets reopened. Trade resumed. The corridors filled with the busy sounds of 1,000 species doing business. Yuna returned to her work at the research center. She studied alien creatures. She wrote reports. She answered questions from colleagues who looked at her differently now. With respect. With wonder. Sometimes with fear. She did not feel like a hero. She felt tired. The battle with the Hollow had left wounds that did not show on her body. Sometimes she woke at night with that terrible cold feeling in her chest. Sometimes she saw shadows moving in empty corners. But she kept going. That was what humans did. Taiho stayed by her side, as he always had. He joked and laughed and pretended nothing had changed. But he was different too. Quieter sometimes. More thoughtful. He had seen what lived in the darkness between stars. He could never unsee it. Jisoo was promoted. Station security made her their new chief. She accepted the position without celebration. There was too much work to do. The Hollow was gone, but Nexus Station still needed protecting. There would always be something that needed protecting. The two team members who had collapsed during the fight recovered fully. They were young, resilient, human. They wore their survival like badges of honor and told the story to anyone who would listen. The others went back to their lives, engineers, scientists, workers, ordinary, people who had done an extraordinary thing and then returned to being ordinary again. Dohan's restaurant became famous. Aliens from across the station came to eat food from Earth, served by the old man who had helped kill a monster. Dohan treated them all the same, kindly, patiently, with the calm wisdom of someone who had seen enough death to appreciate life. One evening, a month after the battle, Yuna sat in Dohan's restaurant. Taiho was beside her. They had cups of tea and plates of food from their homeworld. Outside the window, ships came and went, carrying beings to distant stars. "I've been thinking," Taiho said, "about what happens now." "Now we keep living," Yuna replied. "That's not what I mean." Taiho looked at her. "The Hollow was old, ancient, but you said yourself, there are others out there. Things that hunt and kill. Things that have been doing it for longer than we've existed." Yuna nodded slowly. "I know. Do you think they'll come for us? For humans? Maybe." She took a sip of her tea. "Probably. Sooner or later, something will decide we look like good prey. And when that happens..." Yuna smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made peace with an uncomfortable truth. "Then we'll do what we've always done. We'll be afraid. We'll suffer. Some of us will die. And the rest of us will keep fighting until we win or until there's no one left to fight." Dohan approached their table. He set down a small plate of sweet cakes. "On the house," he said. "For the heroes." "We're not heroes," Yuna said. "No?" Dohan sat down across from them. His old eyes were warm. "What are you then?" Yuna thought about the question. She thought about the Hollow. She thought about the fear that still lived inside her. She thought about her ancestors, all those generations of humans who had faced impossible odds and kept going anyway. "We're survivors," she said finally. "That's all. Just survivors." Dalma nodded. "Yes, that's what heroes are." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. The station hummed around them. Lives continued. The universe turned. Somewhere out there, beyond the light of any sun, something ancient stirred. It had heard stories. Stories about a small blue planet called Earth. Stories about soft creatures who should have been easy prey. Stories about what happened when those creatures refused to break. The something ancient considered this. It was not afraid. It had never been afraid. Fear was for lesser beings. But it was cautious now. There were new predators in the galaxy. Small and young and seemingly weak. But they had killed the Hollow. They had done what no other species had done in 10,000 years. Perhaps it was better to watch them for a while. How? To learn what they truly were. To understand how something so fragile could be so dangerous. The something ancient settled back into the darkness. It could wait. It had all the time in the universe. But somewhere in the back of its ancient mind, a new thought formed. A thought it had never had before. Maybe it was not the hunter here. Maybe, just maybe, it was the prey. The stars burned on. The humans went about their lives. And the galaxy, for the first time in a very long time, was a little bit afraid of them. As it should be. The end.